Hey everyone, this is Chris Wood from Trout Unlimited. I want to tell you what a great honor it is to be able to talk about my friend Dave Whitlock. He was a great mentor and a great man. I don't know of anyone in the fly fishing world who is as much of a Renaissance man as Dave. He was a tyer, he was an author, he was an illustrator, he was an artist. He wrote a column in our magazine for years and years, and I know that was the first page I would turn to see what he had drawn and what he had written. So I can't think of a better honor for Dave than to have a Trout Unlimited chapter named after him, and for us to continue to celebrate the incredible legacy of this great American.
Come on, big boy. I'll get him this time. Come on. When they're near their spawn like that, they just roll and fight. They don't run. That'll do it.
Dave Whitlock. Still catching trout, still teaching us how to cast and land a fish, giggling like a kid looking at a crawdad that won't let loose of his fly, creating art, tying flies as works of art, and just shy of his 86th birthday, still taking time to admire a bluebird sky on an autumn afternoon. Who is this guy? Well, his best lifelong buddy, John T. Nickel, still says he was the smartest kid in school. He left a research chemist career to make a full-time job out of fly fishing and art, so yeah, you gotta be pretty clever to pull that off. He was world-renowned, a master instructor who designed a top school, wrote books people still call the fly fishing Bibles, designed streams to create ideal fish habitats, designed the first flies sold with royalties, dozens of which are still sold today, including a particular style of dubbing used by fly tyers. As a young man, he put on a diver's mask and discovered a new world below the surface of the streams. His first reaction was to share it through his art. Those underwater scenes adorn homes everywhere and live on in hundreds of magazine stories and books, including President Jimmy Carter's Outdoor Journal. He modified a little plastic box, now known as the Vibrant Whitlock, to rear trout in wild streams. It's responsible for the natural raised brown trout and Bonneville trout in Arkansas waters. If you've ventured over there to catch some, thank him. Oh, his name is in multiple halls of fame. He's appeared in dozens of outdoor TV shows and videos. But the resume is not the man that people have labeled their hero. If God is a fly fisherman, then why not? He foul-hooked Dave with a birth defect and diseases right from the start. But the kid fought through. He exercised every day of his life, and no one would know if not told. Dave kept that line tight. He pulled through the tough spots with a shining eye and a bright smile. He kept on rolling, gave the man upstairs a heck of a show. That's just the introduction. Listen up now and learn a little more from the man himself and a lot of good folks who knew Dave for fly fishing and everlasting friendship.
And I'm proud to be an Okie from Muskogee.
I was born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. I began to hunt and fish very early, and probably 5, 6, 7 years old. I was into it because my folks all hunted and fished. We were just coming out of the Depression because I was born in 1934, right in the middle of the Depression. And while they, I'm sure, enjoyed hunting and fishing, they did it a lot to feed themselves. Whenever, in those days, when you were born with handicaps, and I had a birth defect because of the problems of birth with the spine. And then a year or so later, I contracted rheumatic fever, which is a heart condition that really does, damage the function of your heart. And then I got polio. And with all those three things together like that, I was pretty physically inadequate. And so whenever I would go to those schools like that, I had these problems that I just couldn't do everything, well or good or fast or whatever that the other boys could do. I guess everybody has a few miracles that happen in their life. And what I'm about to tell you, I think probably the most unique miracle that I've ever had happened to me. When I was 8 years old, I was looking at an L.L. Bean catalog, which was at that time a little thing about that big with about 40 pages in it. And my granddad got 2 of those catalogs a year, one for the winter and one for the summer. And I was looking at the summer catalog, and I'd open it up, and on this page there was this fishing rod, and it looked like made out of wood, and it had red wraps around it, and a reel, and then laying next to it was a sheepskin, leather sheepskin with these hooks in line on it, and they had feathers on them. They were fishing hooks, but they had feathers on them and hair. And most fishing hooks I ever saw had a worm or a piece of chicken guts or a minnow on them or a crawfish. And so I just was shocked. And remember, I was 8 years old. And I said, Grandpa, I said, what is this? And he looked at it, he said, he kind of took a deep breath, and he said, Dave, he almost like pushed me away. He said, that's not for us, that's fly fishing. That's only for rich people. The next year, my dad bought me a used bamboo fly rod that looked a lot like that rod at a pawn shop in Dubuque, Iowa, for my birthday. And he thought probably that they'd picked the wrong baby up in the hospital, that anybody, in his family would want a fly rod, because fly rod fishing was not done in Oklahoma. It was the Sahara Desert of fly fishing. And so then let's fast forward from that time until 1980. In 1980, L.L. Bean made me the head of their fly fishing program. And I developed them a school, a whole fly tackle system, and wrote them 2 books on fly fishing. Now, how could a crippled kid, 8 years old in Oklahoma, ever evolve to that? That's got to be the least likely thing in the whole world.
My husband and I came to know many years ago when Bill hired Dave to design and run the L.L. Bean fishing schools. The programs he developed there were amazing, both because of how much information that you would leave with, but also the really creative ways that he found to deliver the information so that it always stayed with you. Still today, there are the 3-day schools there in Freeport where probably hundreds and maybe even thousands of people have benefited and have learned the basics and become forever hooked on fly fishing. To complement the schools, Dave wrote the L.L. Bean Fly Fishing Handbook and the L.L. Bean Bass Fishing Handbook. Today, I have never seen another book as comprehensive as each of these. They are everything anyone ever needed to know about fly fishing are there.
There's a lot of great fly fishermen, a lot of personalities, professionals, whatever you want to call them. But, there may be a better fly tyer than Dave out there, but I doubt it. There might be a better fly caster than Dave, but I doubt it. There might be a better fly fisherman than Dave, but I doubt it. There might be a better conservationist than Dave, but I doubt it. There might be a better author than Dave, but I doubt it. There might be a better artist than Dave, but I doubt it. The one thing I can guarantee you, there is nobody that can do everything he did as well as he did in the fly fishing world. There's not.
In the last of the 1970s and the early 1980s, I was guiding on the Bighorn River in Montana. I didn't know Dave Whitlock. One day after guiding, my customer had left and I was sitting around the boat landing and a truck pulled up. A guy with white hair got out and walked over to the river with a fly rod, waded in his jeans, some tennis shoes, and started nymphing at the boat ramp where everybody in the world fished and no one in the world ever caught anything. And this guy with the white hair started catching fish after fish using a nymphing technique that I had never seen. He was nymphing with no indicator. And I thought, whatever this guy's doing, I'd like to know what it is. So I wandered over there stood around on the bank and watched him until he noticed me, and then he waded out, introduced himself, I introduced myself, and I knew the name Dave Whitlock. He actually had known my name. We had a mutual friend, Lefty Cray. And that was my first inkling of what this man's knowledge and talent really was. And taught me about nymphing that day an awful lot, and it helped me and it helped my customers. And over the years that followed that day, Dave and I became very good friends. We did a lot of fishing together. We did quite a bit of filming together as well. And I came to know during that time what a tremendous innovator and contributor in all aspects of our sport and lifestyle Dave really was. But I guess, finally, the thing that I realized that Dave brought to all of us was not so much his knowledge of fishing or his tremendous innovations, but it was joy. If Dave even thought about moving water, he was joyous. And every description that he ever painted for us, whether it was on canvas or with words, expressed the joy that he felt about this tremendous lifestyle that we all enjoy and to which he made so many contributions. He is and always will be greatly missed.
The importance of Dave, what he meant to us, what he meant to me, and what he meant to our entire industry. You know, I don't think it can be overstated. I mean, he was an absolute legend. He influenced so many people. His fly patterns, the books that he wrote, just the people, his artwork, the people that he touched is just, you know, there really hasn't been another like him in this industry. And, you know, I met Dave in the mid-90s. I think he first came here to Mad River Outfitters in maybe 1995. And we developed a strong friendship. He made repeated visits here to Mad River Outfitters and just wowed our customers every time he was here. He was just such a wealth of knowledge and just such a wonderful man to be around. In fact, I've got this Dave Whitlock's Guide to Aquatic Trout Foods. And if you never got to meet Dave, you know, he would not only sign an autograph, but I mean, just look at what he would do and look at what he did in the front of my book, The Guide to Aquatic Trout Foods, which is, by the way, you've heard me say is a must read for all trout anglers, fly anglers. But anyways, Dave didn't just sign his name on a book. Dave wrote you a nice note, drew a beautiful picture. This one is dated April 11, 12, 13, 1997 at Mad River Outfitters. You know, and he went on to say, Brian, what a special 3 days it's been with you and your shop's friends. Thanks so much. I hope this is just the first of a long series of times with you. Yours for fly fishing and friendship, Dave Whitlock. And Dave and I went on to do quite a few things together. In fact, most proud of the video that we did, which was called Carpin. And I can remember asking Dave if he would be interested in being a part of the project. And I was thinking that, of course, he would charge a lot of money and et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out that Dave jumped at the chance. And if you've not seen that video, it's here on our YouTube channel. But it's called Carpin, and it was an honor to work with him. He made the video, quite frankly. He helped me a lot in making the video. And I offered to pay him for his time, and he would not take any money. He just wanted to be a part of the project. And then once that video came out, I got a phone call from him, and he said, Brian, he said, you did a really great job with that video, and he said, I was really proud to be a part of it. So kind of funny. I was awful proud that he was a part of it.
I'm Kirk Dieter, and I'm the editor of Trout Magazine. And I had the great privilege of being Dave Whitlock's editor for Trout Magazine for about 10 years. And while I would maybe change a letter or word or something here and there, mostly I just sat back and read and learned like everybody else. And what's amazing is if you realize how much of an impact Dave had, you'd be hard pressed to go through anybody's fly assortment today or gear or anything without seeing things that are directly related to Dave, and by 6 degrees of separation, many, many more things. Witt's hopper, Dave's hopper, many streamers, many techniques. He really pioneered so much. And what made it most special, though, was when I got to work with him and meet him. A kinder, more gentle soul I've never known. He was the consummate gentleman and just a great person. So when you get to meet someone who you consider a hero and realize that they are not only as smart as you hoped they were, but 10 times nicer, and what a joy it was to work with him. We miss him a lot. I mean, one thing I still keep some of the correspondence he would send, because if Dave Whitlock sent you something, it didn't just come in a plain envelope. He'd dress it up and sign it. When he signed books, he did art. He was really a great talent, but just a wonderful, wonderful man, a wonderful person, and someone who had a huge influence on me and millions of anglers around the world, whether they realize it or not.
He was a friend to me like really no other person I've known in my life, especially in the world of fishing, because I've been, since the 1950s, fly fishing and trout have been my life. I've made my living from it in all ways. But he was a fascinating man in many ways, because he thought very deeply about something. If I showed him or told him something that he really didn't have much knowledge about, he would further his knowledge to understand more and more about that. And not many people tend to do that. And particularly where flies was concerned, because, largely the evolution of trout flies comes from over there in Europe, primarily the UK more than anything else. And a lot of the, what we would define as the, ambassadors, I guess, if that's the way to explain it to you, the late 1700s, 1800s, early 1900s, were the people that were looked up to, at least in that era. Well, Dave was a person that moved on out of that era, and he became a person that, in this era, that people looked up to. And it's kind of strange how evolution does that through different sports, and particularly fly fishing, because I know of no other sport related to fishing or hunting that has gone through the process of evolution within about 100 years that fly fishing has. If you really think about what I've just told you, and you have knowledge of the history of fly fishing, and you see where it is today, you would very much understand what I'm trying to tell you. He had an insight and concept into the world of fly fishing that I don't know anybody else had got.
Everything I look at or see or whatever in the outdoors fascinates me. I want to know about it. And that whenever my grandparents used to take me fishing when I was a small child, I would beg them to let me out and let me go play in the water, or let me look in a can of water in the backyard or whatever, because I always wanted to find out what lived there and what it was and how and all that. I had that insatiable curiosity to discover, life in water, especially in the land and what have you, in the trees and stuff. That was an interest too. But what was in the water totally fascinated me. It still does today. I mean, every time I get to a new fishery, the minute I just almost go underwater with my soul to see what's there.
All of you know, Dave was just a great evangelist for fly fishing and the sport of fly fishing, and through his work with LL Bean, Bass Pro Shop, Sims, and others, he created so many new anglers and touched so many lives. And he really understood that every new fly angler was also likely to become a conservationist and someone interested in wild fish, clean water, and healthy habitats. And you can see the river work here, and Dogwood Canyon's amazing. And I'll just, as an aside, say I was really inspired by Dave, and we've put a lot of money and time and effort into rebuilding a stream up in Montana, central Montana, the North Musselshell River. And I was so hoping to show Dave the work that we did, but I'm really pleased to be able to put some of his ashes there. When I think of Dave, I think about this memory. This is a long time ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago. Dave had an idea that we should shoot a wading safety video for Sims. So you make waders and people, can die in waders. So why don't we put this together? And so he came up to Montana, and we had a producer, John Barrett, who did the Fly Fishing the World show, and it came time for Dave's spot, and he was doing a segment on buddy wading, and he was doing this with Diane Bristol from our company. And John could get kind of a short fuse, and he said, "Where in the hell is Dave?" And I turned around. He wasn't very far away, but he was kneeling down in the river, turning over rocks, and had no idea that this, was his time to do a shoot. And I said, "Dave, are you ready?" And he goes, "Oh my gosh, look at these stoneflies."
I tell you, people who aren't students of nature miss a lot. There's a whole world going on out there right now in that water. Little minnows and crawfish and scuds, and they're all just doing their own things, and they're all adapted to live there. They go through their life cycles, and every little square edge of our planet's like that, It breaks my heart when people don't take better care of it because it's so unique. I've come to believe that every living thing has some form of a soul. Whether it's a tree or whether it's an ant or a trout, that they possess some form of soul. That they have thoughts and consciences. Not like ours, but they possess that. And if you watch them in life, they exhibit certain, certain ethics, I guess you might say.